Keeley, welcome back to the podcast. It's so good to have you back here again.
Hi, Robyn. Thanks so much for having me back. It's great to be here.
It's such a pleasure, Keeley. I think this is your third time joining me on the podcast, so this is very exciting. And I'm really just looking forward to diving deeper into your journey since you last joined us on the podcast, where your business is at, some milestones and lessons that you've learned along the way. But before we even dive into any of that, do you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to our listeners and tell everyone a little bit about who you are, what you do, and kind of how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. Um, okay, so my name's Keeley, and my jewelry business is called Moon Dusk. And I kind of, if you would have asked me like 3, 4, 5 years ago if I thought I'd have a jewelry business, I would have said no, because at that point I didn't even know how to make jewelry.
Hmm.
So I basically stumbled into it. I've got two little kids. They're not so little anymore, but I've got two kids, and I just love being a mum so much. And I did that typical thing where you throw yourself into motherhood, get all tied up in it, and then they start school and you get a bit more time back and you suddenly realize, like, okay, I've kind of lost connection with myself. So I was just trying to figure out, like, because you change so much as a mum as well, I was trying to figure out who I was now, the kind of things I like to do, what I wanted to direction I wanted to take. And yeah, I just stumbled across jewelry making. And through that process of getting a bit more time back for me, reconnecting with myself, I just kind of got my spark back and I kind of felt a bit more energized. And I realized that it's important to spend time on yourself as well. It's great to like throw your time into being a mum, but it's also important to spend time on yourself. So my business just basically came from there, just creating jewelry inspired by my journey of just going through motherhood, all the ups and downs, all the different phases. And now I kind of use celestial symbology, so like moon phases and stars and crystals and that kind of stuff, um, just to try and create little pieces of jewelry that you can wear, and it just makes you feel more like yourself again, and to help other people get their sparkle back too. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of how I got to be the owner of a jewelry business.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much, Keely. And I know, your journey of navigating motherhood and like kind of throwing yourself all in and really enjoying it. And then also coming across that point where it's like, okay, but I've kind of forgotten about myself and I've kind of lost my spark and I'm feeling a little like guilty and confused and like what's going on here. I think that story is going to resonate with so many mothers who've gone through the same or are going through that right now. What would your advice be to someone listening who is maybe where you were a couple of years ago, where they're at that stage of motherhood where they're recognizing like, oh my gosh, I have a bit more time now, and I'm feeling like I've lost touch with myself, and I feel like I've lost that spark. And at one point, I was wanting to build this business, and then I kind of it fell on the back burner. And now I've kind of lost confidence in my abilities to go and do it. What would your advice be for them?
Mm-hmm. So I think my advice would be, first of all, try and find little ways to push through the mum guilt, because that is something that I found a really big barrier. I kind of I think it's this like weird psychological thing that happens when you're constantly helping other people and you're always doing stuff for other people. Even if you're doing that willingly, like you're offering to do it because you love them and you care for them and you want to do the best for them, there's this weird thing that happens sometimes psychologically, and because you are at the bottom of the list, your subconscious kind of tells you that's because you're less important. So then every time you try and spend time on yourself or do something for you, you are faced with this guilt of, oh, but it's selfish. Like, what, you're sitting reading a magazine when your kids, you could be playing and spending time with them. They're only little for a short amount of time. Or I don't know, if, for example, I don't know, get them a McDonald's for their dinner as a treat so that you can have half an hour to yourself while you're not cooking and cleaning up from dinner time. It's really hard to navigate that guilt because you're like, well, McDonald's is rubbish. You shouldn't be feeding your kid this nonsense. Like, you're prioritizing reading a magazine over like getting them healthy food. But it's fine. Like, the one McDonald's every now and again isn't going to hurt them. You need to try and find ways to get through the guilt, to be able to spend time on yourself. And what you gain from that, it's not taking half an hour to read a magazine. Maybe you read something in the magazine that inspires you to do something, or you'll learn something new, or you'll read an article and you'll get a different perspective, or I don't know, you can always gain so much more than what your head is telling you, or you're just being selfish reading a magazine. It's never as simple as that. There's always all these layers. So I think the advice I would give to someone that was struggling and wanted to do something and was finding these blocks, I think the main thing would definitely be just try and reconcile that guilt and reframe it. You're not being selfish. And a little way that I found to do this, I'm kind of digressing here a bit, but it just really helped me, and I think it might help other people, is I know journaling, it's like a big thing at the moment. You don't feel like you have enough time sometimes as a mum, but literally just even on your notes app on your phone, if you spend literally 30 seconds at the beginning of the day, what your focus is going to be for that day. It might be batch cooking lots of lovely meals to eat through the week. It might be taking your kids to the park and after school and playing with them, whatever your focus is for that day, above and beyond what you're already doing. If you make a note of that, by the end of the week, you've got something physical you can look back on, and you can see, right, well, do you know what? I've put everybody else's needs and I've prioritized everyone else above myself, and we've got to Friday. I'm not going to feel bad about taking a class or learning something, or listening to a business podcast or something, or getting that inspiration. It's a lot easier, like I say, to reconcile that guilt if you have something. I'm not saying that you need proof to take time for yourself, but it's easier to kind of reconcile that with yourself if you've got something physical to see with all that down. And also, I think in general, the advice I would give to people is sometimes you see doing something as taking away from time that you spend with your family, but sometimes you're actually gaining more, because you're like, definitely with me, like, I've learned and grown so much. And I know you say this all the time, like, you can't have your own business and expect not to grow. You grow so much, you learn so much, and it's a whole process. And you can show up in other parts of your life. As a mum, you can show up in different ways that you maybe wouldn't be able to show up before. And yeah, so again, it's that whole thing of you're gaining a lot more than just, taking that time out. You can show up like as more as well.
That is such great advice, Keeley. And I'm so glad that you brought up the personal growth part of this because, yeah, I say it all the time, and you guys are probably sick of hearing it. But I always see entrepreneurship as really just, especially building a jewelry business where you're kind of pouring your heart and soul into what you're doing and what you're putting out there. It's really personal growth on steroids. And that personal growth is going to impact not just your business, it's going to impact you and how you show up in the world and how much space you're taking up and how worthy you feel of like going and chasing certain goals and doing things and taking vacations and whatever it is. And it's also going to change the way you show up in relationships or with your family or with your kids. So I'm kind of curious, Keeley, on your journey. I know you've obviously gone through a lot of personal growth since you've been growing your jewelry business over the last few years. And I think you've been in the JBA for a couple of, I don't know if it's 1 or 2 years now. You've been in there for a while. You've come to the retreat and you've gone through so much growth. I can see it in your content. I can see it in the way you show up, your questions, the different milestones you've been working through in your business as well. Can we talk a little bit about like how you felt about yourself, how you felt in business a few years ago compared to now, and
Mm-hmm.
and what personal growth has actually looked like for you? Because for everyone, it's going to look a little bit different.
Yeah. I so I've been in the JBA. It will be, I joined up just before my birthday because I remember I think it was the first group call was
Mm.
like on, no, it was the second group call. So it was the first week that I joined was on my 39th, was it 38th? 38th birthday. So I've been in nearly 2 years now. And the difference in that 2 years, just in terms of personal growth, is like, it's crazy, absolutely crazy. Because before, I I don't know how to describe it. I was just like, and I still am to a certain extent, but I was just scared of everything. I was scared to do anything. I was worried about doing something wrong. I would give stuff a go, but in a way that felt safe. So I could tell myself, oh, but I'm trying to do this and it's not working. So I'll just give up. But actually looking back, like it was just, I'd created a little safety bubble and I was just
Mm.
doing the thing, but as long as it kept me inside that bubble. And now, um, yeah, the bubble popped a while ago. there's no bubble now, but it's a good thing because now, and I can't remember if I said this on a group call or not recently, but now I'm at the point where if I feel myself getting a bit feeling a bit safe and feeling like stuff is easy, that now triggers me to think like, you need to like push a bit harder, and not in a toxic way, not in a constantly um nothing's ever good enough way. It's you've nailed this bit, you've nailed this
Mm.
little step, do another little step, keep pushing forwards. Like you've done this, you can do a little bit more. So yeah, like it's really crazy. And even I remember so the first call that we did together, even showing up on Zoom, like I wouldn't even have the camera on when I FaceTime my family. Like I would have it facing the kids, so like I wouldn't talk on FaceTime. So showing up in a Zoom call was super intimidating just because I just didn't have the confidence, didn't want to say anything wrong, didn't want to like, I don't know, just I guess I just wanted to hide. Like even speaking on the phone normally probably would have been quite a challenge for me. So yeah, and now I don't think twice about Zoom calls with people I know, with strangers. Like, yeah, hop on, it's fine. Um, so yeah, just in terms of that confidence for showing up, and yeah, it's just crazy. I wish, and this I'm sounding a little bit like I haven't got any compassion for my older self, and I do, but I kind of wish that I could go back and tell myself then, like, it's all going to be fine. Like I kind of wish I'd done it sooner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And, I do remember you coming in. I remember, I think it was for the 10-day challenge, because when all our clients come in, they all do this 10-day challenge. And part of it is like doing a video every day. And I get a lot of resistance from a lot of people around that. And they still do it. They like are like, hey, I hate this, and we'll do it. And I think I remember one of yours. I actually think I remember you were walking like along a nature path or something, and your
Mm-hmm.
daughter filmed it for you, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you just posted it, and you're like, I've never been on video, or like, I'm super uncomfortable with this, but it's going out there. And I think very quickly, like, it maybe didn't become super comfortable showing up on camera, but like there was a switch. And I actually snapped a screenshot of a comment you posted on our group call this week, and now it's just coming to me. I'm like, you posted in the comments, hoping I wouldn't see it, saying that you're actually enjoying showing up on Instagram now, which is so, so wonderful to hear. And it sounds like you're enjoying connecting with people in life as well, like on Zoom calls or on the phone calls. And it's really interesting how these little things we build up to be such big things. We feel so like insecure showing up on video, because like your story, I see this all the time. Like there's a lot of people who feel very uncomfortable taking up space, very uncomfortable being seen. And it's just so beautiful to see you like not only going and claiming that space, but like celebrating it. You have fun with it, like you have so much personality, and it's really starting to shine through as well, through your content, which, you know I'm curious to hear how this has impacted your business,
Mm-hmm.
this shift in how you show up.
Yeah. Um, so just first of all, that 10-day challenge, I had so much resistance for that. I was like, there is no way, there's no point me doing it because I'm never going to get to the point where I could like post any of this on Instagram. I don't need to be the face of my business. All those classic things that like, and it's funny now when other people join and you see them saying the same kind of thing, and I'm like, give it a couple of weeks, you'll be fine. But yeah, that posting those videos, even filming myself, I it was so hard. But because all you're doing is filming it and putting it in like the JBA group, it's such a safe place. All you get is encouragement, all you get is positivity. Any single worry that you could possibly have just fades away because there's people like leaving such lovely comments, they're listening to what you're saying, like the all the things that you worry about, like, oh, people are going to think I'm a weirdo, or like, am I going to say the wrong thing? You literally could mess up and, like, first take, mess it up, drop the phone. No one's judging you for that. And it's a really safe place. And that just kind of gives you that first little boost of confidence. It's that first baby step to then take and have the courage to go onto Instagram. And it isn't, like you said, it's not an overnight thing. It certainly wasn't for me an overnight thing, but you've got to start somewhere, and that is an amazing place to start doing those things. In terms of how being the face of the business and kind of showing up a bit more has affected kind of like my business and my Instagram. um I was gonna, before we came on the podcast, I took a screenshot. I was gonna send you this screenshot, especially after that comment that I put yesterday. So a couple of my followers in my comments were having this little conversation. One of them had put like, "Oh, I just wanted to come on here and say, Keeley, I've been loving your content recently." And then they were having this little conversation like, "Oh yeah, I just love the way that like I'll be going through my feed and I can hear your voice." And I was like reading through it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cute." So I think what it's kind of taught me is that people aren't there to judge. If someone is watching a reel and they find it a bit cringe, they just look at something else. Like they're not necessarily sitting there judging you. But for the people that are resonating with you and are connecting with you, it means a lot to them for you to be there. And it starts conversations, it helps people feel seen, it helps you build this little community. And yeah, I think it helps you to enjoy being on Instagram, even though I hate to admit it. I did try and sneak that comment in without you seeing it yesterday. But yeah, it does help you. Like I've got an Instagram. This sounds weird, but I've got an Instagram. I've made some really, really good friends on Instagram through the business, just from like going out there and like being a bit vulnerable, or being a bit silly, or like having a bit of fun, and that resonates with people, and you get chatting, and then it's. I would say that I've not had any negative. I've not None of the negative things that I thought would happen have happened. And that includes when I go back, like I've actually got one of my reels is pinned to the top and it's like a day in the life one. And I'm so awkward in it. I'm like, hi, come on a day in the life with me. And it's really, because I was just so nervous. It's not me. And I've left it pinned there just because it's kind of like useful. It's got quite a few views and it goes through just things that obviously people are going to be wanting to know when they come into my profile. But yeah, I look back on that and think, first of all, it's good because I've seen how far I come. But even though I look back and think, oh, I could do that better now, like it's fine. Nothing bad happened from like a bit of content, me feeling it was a bit cringe, even though like other people obviously don't think that. So yeah, I think it's, in terms of the business, it's really helped me find a voice. It's helped me be there for other people. It's helped me connect with my audience. And I can't think of a single negative thing that has come from it. And that fear would have been the thing that was holding me back from doing it. So it's good to have that reinforced, that it's, only the good things are happening.
Oh, I love that so much, Keely. And that's awesome to hear that you've had, potential customers or people in your community having a whole conversation amongst themselves in the comment section of one of your posts, just
Mm-hmm.
saying how much they love your content. I mean, we don't need that outside validation, but it's so beautiful when we do get that evidence and that like that genuineness of like, these are not
Mm-hmm.
just like friends and family being like, great job, Keeley. These
Mm-hmm.
are like people who have got to know you through social media, and they're seeing your content and they're actively looking for it on a daily basis. It sounds like
Mm-hmm.
I look for your stuff as well. Like, it's very, very genuine, very authentic, and very fun. Like, you just have a fun energy the way you show up. And you're just on such a roll, so it's wonderful hearing the impact that's had on you and the business and all of that. And so I know over the past few months, I think since you last came on, you've had ups and downs of life
Mm-hmm.
and business, and you've had to take unexpected time off. Um, and even though you've been through lots of ups and downs, you were able to almost triple your profits, I think, in Q3 last year.
Mm-hmm.
Despite the fact that you were launching less, despite the fact that you were canceling events, what do you think made the biggest difference behind the scenes?
Uh, yeah. So I don't know. Will I give it a bit of context?
It's
Shall
up
I
to
tell the
you,
story?
whatever
Okay.
you're comfortable with.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. So basically, after the retreat, I came home. So I had flown from Scotland to Canada, gone to the Joy Business retreat, come back home. I think I'd been home for like 2 weeks. And when I came home, I was like, I just had so much energy, and you know, there was a lot of stuff that I'd learned at the retreat that I was really ready to implement. So I was planning a launch, and it was the evening actually that I launched, my husband ended up going into hospital, and he was in there for quite a while. So basically, I'd had some time off to get to the retreat. And then instead of working on the launch and going into the studio, I was at the hospital a lot. Um, and going through stuff like that, it takes up a lot of your mental capacity. So when I was coming home in the evening, I was sorting the kids. I didn't have a lot left to give to the business, but because the way that I'd set the business up, or not even the way that I'd set the business up, but when I joined the JBA, you get us to look at the why. Like, why do we do, like, why are we going into business? What is it we want to achieve? And my why was to kind of like be able to still be there for the kids, still be present, but work the business around that. So I was really used to already taking time off when the kids were off. I had strategies in place to be able to stay consistent with the things that I like, my non-negotiables. So the things that I needed to stay consistent with, I had stuff in process to kind of keep that ticking over. So I think the most important things for me around that time was having these strategies in place, and it that stopped the panic. I wasn't worrying about Jason in the hospital, worrying about the kids, because I was just having to like draft in all of the favors from all the friends and family to kind of get them
Mm-hmm.
sorted out. Um, as well as worrying about all of that, I wasn't having to worry about the business. I had, like, even though I was cancelling the events, I had other revenue streams coming in from like concessions and stuff like that. So I had,
Stores.
yeah, in stores. So I had the work in stores. So even though I wasn't selling at the events, I was still getting the income from that. So yeah, I think it was that kind of stuff, and also just kind of nailing um, sort of that balance between really kind of honing in on what. So it's hard to explain. Let me think. Before, I would just make stuff that I thought was cool and buy gemstones that I liked the look of and mush everything together and like sell the stuff that I'd made. But I had collections, I had like the materials for those collections. And that really helped get my expenses down because I wasn't wasting money on those different things. I wasn't getting distracted by, oh, that I can make this or I can make that. And I think that really helped as well. I was getting my expenses down. So just in terms of like general profit, each
Mm-hmm.
piece I was selling, I was getting more profit on that as well. So there was like a number of things I think that helped me kind of get through that time. But yeah, the other thing just being having it down as a reflex reflex those things that you need to be consistent with, email marketing, posting on social media, getting used to being able to create content that even though like I've been at the hospital all day and like there's no way I am showing up on social media after a day like that, I had all the B-roll already on the phone so I could put reels together. I already had caption ideas and things like that I'd made a note of and had kind of in my back pocket almost that I could bring out. So I was still showing up on social media, but I was also protecting myself. So I had time to kind of deal with what I was dealing with as well. Um, and yeah, I mean, I was so surprised at the end of Q3 when I was going through all the numbers. I found it really hard to believe that. I'm not saying it wasn't any effort, but to see how stripped back I could have the business for that period of time and still be able to grow the business, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes so much sense, Keely. And I'm so impressed with you because I think, navigating those tough seasons of life, it's difficult and it's challenging. And the fact that you had gone and like implemented the systems and you had these other revenue streams and you've really put in the work to get to that place where
Mm-hmm.
you can like, strip down to the bare minimum of like showing up for the business and still be like growing the business essentially, which is really inspiring, I think, for a lot of listeners, because the reality is like I speak to a lot of jewelry business owners. I know what goes on behind the scenes of a lot of our clients' lives. And what I see, which is really interesting, is like at any given time, we have a good number of clients going through difficult seasons of life, whatever that looks like, it's different for everyone, and they're still able to show up for their business but in smaller amounts of time or energy in different ways. And that's where it's so valuable to have those systems in place, to have like the strategies in place. And I know you also talked about lowering expenses, so this is really interesting because I think sometimes people get fearful of growing their business because they're like, oh, my expenses are already so high, it's going to be even higher, like how's this sustainable, how's this going to work? And, I know you sent over some of the data. Are you okay if I just read it
Yeah.
out just briefly? Because you sent me an email and you said in your total turnover from 2023 to 2024 was up by 30%. Your profit was up by 282%. Your sales in Q3 was up by 14%. And your profit tripled in that season as well. And then your expenses in Q3 from 2023 to 2024 were down 47%. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that contribute to that, obviously, but it's interesting what happens because it sounds like from what you were sharing, Keely, a huge reason for that is because you are no longer just like hopping online and seeing what gemstones you like and what materials you like and like just buying at a whim. Because I see a lot of people spend a lot of money, a lot of jewelry business owners spend a lot of money on supplies that they haven't really like got a plan around. And I'm all for having fun with making, but also if you're building a sustainable business, you want to be clear on what materials do we work with, like what's the theme here, what's going on. And it sounds like you've really got that in place. And so I'm glad to hear that made a difference for you. So I want to talk about fear because you brought it up earlier, the way that you approach fear and doubt in your business has definitely changed over the past 2 years. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
even when you came to the retreat and we hiked Knox Mountain, you sent me an email a few weeks later, and I don't remember exactly what you said, but you shared something about, maybe that you hated me in the moment for hiking Knox. I don't remember. But it's changed. I think it was the Knox Mountain and the cold plunge combination where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I now feel like I can do anything in business.
Mm-hmm.
But talk to us about how the way you approach fear and doubt in your jewelry business has changed over the past few months.
Okay, so first of all, I forgive you for Knox, Robyn.
Thank you.
No, seriously though, I think the funny thing is like halfway up Knox when I was like, because I, for context as well for listeners, like I had injured my foot at the time as well, and I was really struggling. I was getting through on like painkillers and just like grit basically. Um, but yeah, there was a point halfway up Knox where I was like, the irony of like everything, because I'm watching everyone going faster and getting up the top, and I'm sitting there like, can you do one more step? Yeah, you can do one more step, do that. And I'm like, this is so like, this is just a metaphor for everything, for business, for life, for it all. And as much as I was like, I can't believe you're making me climb up a mountain, Robyn, I was like, I kind of understand why you're making me climb up a mountain, Robyn. But yeah, it is that thing. Like, the more you compare yourself, the more you look at other people, the more fear you're going to get that you're not going to ever get there, that you're not going to, you know, catch up, I guess, not going to be at the same level as other people. But what you need to remember is like that's their path, they're on their thing. It doesn't mean you can't do it. You know, you're gonna get there. You just have to concentrate. Right, you're looking up and watching all the other people and what they're doing. That doesn't get you anywhere. What's going to get you somewhere is like, well, what is the next step that you need to take to get a bit higher up that mountain? So I think that's just what I've kind of took away with me is the more, because I'm very much a kind of look at what I want to do as a whole and then flap around because I don't know what I need to do to get there. Or it's not even often what I need to do, I'm just overwhelmed. So that's when the fear kicks in as well, because you're like, oh, I'm never going to be able to do it, blah 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 blah. But yeah, just the next step. What's one thing you can do today? It doesn't matter how small it is. It doesn't need to be a step. Maybe it's just a little shuffle, but a shuffle is going to get you further up, and then before you know it, you're at the top of Mount Knox, looking down, thinking, that wasn't that bad, was it?
Oh my goodness, that is such a great analogy, Keely, and it's so true. I mean, I say
Mhm,
this all the time, but a successful business is just an accumulation of teeny tiny doable steps. You can do it at a pace that feels good to you. And, same way that you hike a mountain. And you have really done an amazing job doing that because you don't have a lot of time. You're a mom, you have two little ones, you have a lot going on. You
mhm,
have very small pockets of time. And I think we chatted about that on the hot seat when you came and did a hot seat episode. So, what advice would you give to jewelry business owners who are juggling motherhood and unpredictability and self doubt, and they have those little pockets of time and they still
mhm.
trying to grow?
Yeah. Um, so yeah, just hike up Mount Knox for a start, and then every single time you doubt yourself, you remember it. But yeah, you it is that trap, isn't it? When you have little pockets of time, and I think a lot of people in business will resonate. When you have little pockets of time, you'll see other businesses that you kind of admire or other people doing similar things to what you're doing. And you sometimes it's maybe even frustration. You're frustrated with yourself that you're not there yet. But again, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get there. So if you can use the small pockets of time that you do have well, find ways to get over the overwhelm and the procrastination and the flapping around, figure out what tasks you actually need to do that's going to move the business forwards and that's going to be useful for the business. So buying pretty gemstones that are sparkly and nice, it's gonna make you feel great. That's not going to necessarily help your business because you already have a drawer full of sparkly gemstones. So yeah, if you can use the time wisely and focus in on the things that are going to move you forwards, then you literally could have, I always say this as well. Like in the half terms, if someone said to me, or when the kids are off, if someone said to me, how much time do you have to spend on your business in a day? I have no time where I can like physically say, I have got an hour from start to finish that I can work in my business today, because I always will put the kids first. And if they need something and I'm halfway through writing an email, then, the laptop goes off and you go and sort the kids. So you could have very little time, but you can still get stuff done when
Mm.
you find little pockets and windows of time if you know what it is that you need to do, and if you kind of break it down enough so that you're finding tasks to fit in the time that you have available. So the advice I would give to someone who's starting a business or working on a business and time is really limited, like, that's not going to stop you. Like, you can still do it. You might have to be a bit more focused, and you might have to try and find ways to use that time productively. But having not a lot of time doesn't need to mean that you can't work on your business and that it can't grow. Like you can do it. Stop looking at other people and what they're doing and worrying. And again, it just comes back to what can you do next to grow the business.
That is great advice, Keely. And what I love is that you actually practice that advice. Like I see you putting that into action like on a daily basis. So
Mm-hmm.
very, very doable and so, so true. So, looking ahead over the next few months and maybe even next few years, what are you most excited about in your jewelry business? And what does success look like for you now compared to when you started?
Oh, that's a juicy question, Robyn. Well, okay,
Yeah.
how so when I first started, I think success to me looked like being able to grow the business and not feel that I was compromising on my family. I feel like I'm I feel like I'm kind of not there, but I feel happy with that aspect of it. So going forwards, what success would look like would be to maintain that. But obviously my kids are getting older now, so my time that I'll have on the business is going to grow. So I think just expanding into that and staying focused and I don't know. I think there's lots of little milestones. Like I'd love to be in more shops. Like that's something that I'm working at. I'd love to really refine the events that I'm doing as well. I'd love to do more kind of like solo pop-ups and things rather than the bigger markets. That I've got 101 things I think that is on the bucket list. But in general success, I think, yeah, just being able to grow the business naturally so it expands into that time that I'm getting back as the kids get older, and just not finding a balance, but just kind of filling the time. And it might be different from how that looks now, but just being able to kind of like use that time well, I guess.
I love that. Well, I'm excited for you. I know you're going to make that happen, and it will be really interesting to bring you back on in a couple of months and hear a little bit more about how that's going.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to quickly talk a little bit about your experience in the JBA because obviously you said it's around 2 years now that
Yeah,
almost two
nearly.
years that you've been in the
Mm-hmm.
JBA, which is so special. And so let's like throw it back 2 years ago before you came into the program. Can you remember how you were feeling before we started working together? What sort of challenges were you facing in your business when you decided, yeah, you know what, I need help. I want to join the JBA. Like
Mm-hmm.
where were you? Where was your mindset at that stage?
So I was mindset wise, I was just kind of a bit frustrated, I think, because I am one of these people, I think just because like a base level anxiety, I over prepare for everything. So I had literally signed up for every boot camp, every course. I've got a degree in business management, believe it or not. So I feel like I was overeducated. I had a lot of information, but I wasn't seeing any results. So I think my attitude back then was quite frustrated. My mindset was just I wanted to know how to do things. People kept saying like, "Oh, grow your email list." I'm like, "But how? Like I'm trying, it's not growing. Like how do I do this?" Um and yeah, I think I was very fearful in terms of mindset and very resistant to certain things and thinking that I could maybe circumvent like showing up for the business in certain ways and still be able to grow the business. So I think back then, um, yeah, I think that's where my head was at. Just it, like I really loved the business and I enjoyed doing it, but there was a lot of frustration and um, yeah, and feeling like I've learned as much as I can learn. Why isn't it happening?
Mm. Yeah, I totally get that. And so you obviously decided to sign up. Do you remember what kind of was the like, yeah, you know what, I'm going to do this, I'm going to sign up? What was the reason or what was the thing that made you do it?
I'm trying to think. Like I think because we were on the call and we were talking about how it was what the JBA offered, and I was seeing how that was different from what I had before. And I'd done boot camps where there was a level of support and things like that, but what I didn't have before is what is offered with the JBA, which is the consistency, the accountability, the like I literally can talk to you on a weekly basis about anything that's coming up on the business, and all those things. For example, if like there's some training, I've got a person where I can say, well, how do I do that? What's, this is what I've tried, it's not working. What am I doing wrong, kind of thing. So I think um maybe seeing a way out of all those frustrations that I had before, I was like, do you know what? It's worth, like, I've tried all these other things. Like, there's only so many, marketing or like how to use Instagram, like YouTube videos I can see before you feel like you just need someone who's done it and has kind of like got that knowledge and can help you and you can get feedback from them. Yeah, I think that was what the tipping point for me, knowing that that was the support that I was going to get.
I love that. And so, do you remember if there was anything that almost made you not sign up?
Yeah. Um, I'm just going to say it, like, I know people don't like talking about money. I didn't want to spend that amount of money because to me, and it wasn't a reflection on you or anything, it was me, like, what if I can't do it? What if I'm the person that this doesn't work for? What if I give up? What if I don't have time? All those what ifs that go through your mind, that was really. And also, what if, like, what if I signed up and then I couldn't afford to make the payments? Because at that point, the income coming into my business, I had enough saved up for like a few months, but I knew I was going to have to earn money through the business as we went along to pay for it. So that, yeah, that was, I think, just the investment was the thing that was the biggest block, I think, for me. But
Hmm.
it it wasn't that big because I literally signed up on the call on the call that we had. Like, by the time I got to the end of the call, it's like, okay, well, how do I sign up? So yeah, as much as I say that was like the biggest block, it wasn't big enough. I didn't even need time to consider it. It wasn't something that I ummed and ahed about for ages. Like, once I'd spoken to you and you explained what the JBA was all about, I was like, no, that's okay. We'll go for this.
Oh, amazing. I love the honesty, Keely. And, obviously now you're 2 years in, so I'm assuming it all it went smoothly the first few months, which is I guess you were most anxious about.
Yeah, yeah, and every single month I made the payment, and not only was I able to make the payments, I also was generating enough income in the business that I was able to take on a private studio. So I think it was maybe like 5 months into the JBA. I started in July, and then by October I'd taken on the studio, and I obviously was able to pay for the studio, all of the rent and rates and everything, and I've been able to consistently do that um, since then. So all of those fears that I had around the investment and everything, like, it was just one of the. I think it was just an excuse in my head, and I felt the pressure of what if I can't do this? What if I don't have what it takes, or those kind of fears around it.
And I think that's so, so normal to have those fears.
Mm-hmm.
And just massive shout out to you for feeling the fear and the discomfort, which is so valid, and then still just taking action because, it's got you pretty far today. And so, what wins have you celebrated over the past 2 years in your business?
Oh my god, there's so many wins. So yeah, getting the studio was a massive win because that has just been so amazing. So happy that I went for that, and I just kind of like fell into it. It wasn't necessarily something that I was looking for, but
Mhm.
I was able to be in the mindset where I, like you say, felt the fear and did it anyway. Took on that sort of responsibility and everything, and that's been brilliant. So that was a big win. There's loads of others. Like, I do keep account of all the little ones. So like getting into my first store and hit my first 100 sales, or like even silly things like get my first online sale, hitting 1,000 followers on Instagram, and all these things. They've all been like massive wins for me. And then all the, obviously the financial wins, being able to see the business grow and the income coming in, and it kind of like being regular, and the business supporting itself, and all of these kind of things, they've all been huge wins as well. um and more than that, just like we said, taking it like a full circle back to the beginning, all the kind of personal growth as well, and being able to do that in a safe environment with people that are kind of going through the same thing that you're going through. That is a huge win, because I've never really had that before. Like, it's the support you get from the JBA community is really different. And I'm lucky, I've got like a supportive partner, I've got a supportive family, but sometimes the support they give isn't always the support you need. Whereas people that are walking the same path as you, they kind of like, they just get it. Like, there's just something, isn't there? They get it. So yeah, I think that's just a little handful of wins. I could reel them off all day.
I love that so much, Keely. Thank you for sharing. And you've obviously seen like an evolution of the program, because every year we're updating. I mean, throughout the year, we also update and change things around. And so you've seen the new, and you've gone through the new 10-day jewelry biz sprint, which is the
Mhm.
first 10 days that of basically heavy lifting that we get new clients to go through when they come into the program, where we're setting up their foundations. We're looking at like your why for your business. We're looking at, you know, your collections, your pricing, your offer, your Instagram marketing and email marketing, and optimizing your website, and all the stuff that you need to do before we go into the 90-day blueprint. And we've updated the 90-day blueprint to our new theme days. We've simplified it. What's your experience been of just going through, like, what would you say is your favorite part of like the 10-day sprint and the 90-day blueprint?
Mhm. I love the 10-day sprint because is really easy to keep track of where you are, and it's really accessible, having it in that kind of format. And I, even though I had done the training before, um when it was like in the old format, I went back and did the 10-day sprint, and it did take me more than the 10 days.
Yeah.
So I spent like a couple of days doing some things, but that was because I was diving really deep again into the things that I'd done before, and kind of going through. Because even what I found for my business, I know lots of people come into business and they have a really clear idea and they know what they're doing, and that's great. I kind of just, I feel like I'm always stumbling my way through. So I started my jewelry business as I was learning how to make jewelry, basically. So having like the time when I was in the JBA to kind of like think about my story, think about my offer, think about the collections and that kind of stuff, I found that even in that 12 months, I had so much more clarity that I could go back into those things and kind of revisit all of that, and kind of like zhuzh it up and kind of get a bit more focus. And then that had a snowball effect, so then it became easier to do some of the other things like the email marketing and the welcome sequence, because it's hard to share your story and connect with people when you're a bit fuzzy on on the kind of
On
details,
the
or where,
story.
yeah, on where you're going with it. So there was revisiting that. I loved the fact that I could just dip into some things in more detail. So there was other things like the events, for example. I already had my event set up, and um I'm always kind of tweaking that anyway. But like, so that I kind of like, I revisited that a little bit, but then like there were other modules that I went into in a lot more detail. And yeah, it was really enjoyable, actually. I know the first time round is, I found it quite overwhelming, because I felt like I wanted to do so much, and I wanted to do it really quickly and have it all done. And so going back and revisiting it and taking my time, it was actually really fun. And it was nice to look back and think, oh, that was all right then, but like now I've got like a different idea for that. And the new layout for the 90-day blueprint, because each day has got like a theme, that's really good for days where you're maybe getting a bit distracted, or I don't know if other people have this, but sometimes I wake up and I know I've got loads of things to do and I'll just not do any of them. I'll get really involved in something else. And I'm like, why am I sitting here doing this? I've got these things to do. So the 90-day business blueprint, that's really good for like, no, I'm not gonna like start researching this packaging or whatever because I've got my packaging nailed. I don't need to worry about that. Today I'm going to be reaching out to wholesales or whatever that day um, might be. So yeah, it's really good to help keep you focused and remind you of all those things that you need to be kind of doing on a weekly basis as well. And even though there's like the different themes of each day, it's still super flexible. There's time in there for you to do the training if you want to go back and revisit stuff. And yeah, I actually really love the new layout of it. I was really excited when it came out, and I'm such a geek, Robyn. I have got my little file, and I actually have it's all like
You've
printed
got
out, and
everything there.
I make notes and everything. But it's just so handy, and I can take that. Like sometimes I'll even have it in the car, and like I don't know, I'll be dropping the kids at swimming. I've got half an hour, and I'll be like, right, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing today? And I can just go. I've got my little notes from I've had ideas earlier in the week, and I've jotted them down, and it's just like it's instant focus for me rather than me kind of like flapping around a bit too much.
Oh my goodness. I love that so much, Keely. And I love that you have like all the training, everything printed out there with you in the folder. Super organized.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've seen the folder before. I've heard about it. I don't think I've seen it.
It's
But that is
infamous.
awesome. That is awesome. So for anyone listening who's thinking of joining us in the JBA, that may be a jewelry business owner, maybe where you were a couple of years ago, or maybe they're like, we have people who are more experienced wherever they're at in their journey. Would you
Mm-hmm.
recommend the JBA for them, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% would recommend it. I'm afraid you're stuck with me for life now, Robyn. Sorry. But even it, to me, it doesn't, I still feel that even though I've grown so much since I first started, the support that I'm getting from the JBA, it kind of evolves with you, if that makes sense. So it doesn't matter like if you're at the beginning of your journey and you need help kind of like with all the startup questions, like everyone, is either going through the same thing or has been through that, you get that support. But even when you're like further on in your business and you've got different questions, there's such a the training is so like expansive, I guess, that like you can always go and find the answer to your problem, or you can bring it to a group call, or you can take it to the Facebook group. No matter what you like kind of throw in there, whatever you're struggling with, you're going to get help and support, and you're going to end up being able to work through it. So I would say, regardless of what stage of business you're at, like there's so much value that you can get from being in that kind of environment. Um, and the thing is, well, like I was thinking about this the other day, and I definitely, like I said earlier, I kind of went into the JBA and I'd done loads of training, I'd done loads of boot camps. Sometimes it's not about the stuff that you learn, it's about the stuff that you unlearn. So all of these kind of like fears, all these doubts, all these mindset blocks, you don't even realize sometimes that you have them until someone kind of helps you through it, helps you through the block, and helps you unlearn that thing. So that pattern of behavior that was holding you back and stopping you from achieving things and like doing things in your business that you probably should have been doing, you unlearn all of that, and then you open yourself up, and you wouldn't necessarily have been able to do that if you'd just been doing it alone. So I would maybe urge people to consider that as well. Like you might be thinking, oh, I can just like do another YouTube tutorial, or I can sign up for like another kind of like online masterclass for free. And that's great. You'll learn loads. What are you going to unlearn from that? What habits are you going to be breaking? What mindset shifts are you going to be kind of getting by doing that? And then consider if you feel like you were coming up against blocks, then absolutely you need to get in the JBA because you'll get help through all of those.
That is such a great point, Keely. It's not always just about what you're learning, it's about sometimes what you're unlearning. Thank you so much for sharing that. And this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you for joining me and sharing your story so vulnerably and openly as well. I know you're going to have inspired a lot of listeners with what you're building and the way you're navigating business and motherhood and everything in between. So, where can our listeners find you and how can they support you, Keeley?
Well, I am always on Instagram showing up now. So, yeah, like if you want to come and say hi on Instagram, my handle is at Moon and Dusk. So yeah, come say hi. And also I've got my website, which is, if you want to see the jewelry, which is www.moonanddusk.co.uk. And I also have a podcast. So if you fancy listening a bit more about just kind of reconnecting with yourself after motherhood, you can find the podcast. It's called From Mum to Me, and it's on all the podcasty places where you listen to them.
Oh my goodness. I love that. We'll link all of those in the show notes, but I forgot to talk about your
I
podcast
know.
because that's been something you've been working on for a while. And
Mm-hmm.
for anyone who's listening, we have training on launching podcasts for jewelry brands in a way that you're not bringing in other jewelry brands listening. We're bringing in customers and community. And are you okay, Keely?
I'm sorry. I just
Don't worry.
the water went
I want
down
to
the
make
wrong
sure
hole.
you're okay. It's all good. um, yeah, you're building a podcast. Like, can you imagine a few years ago, but when you wouldn't even be on video, telling yourself that you were going to have a podcast that's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all these platforms?
Yeah, I mean, literally, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, in fact, you did quite often say about the podcast, and I was like, no, 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 like I couldn't possibly.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's something again I never ever ever thought I could do, and then it was just like, right, plan the podcast. So then I planned it, and then record one episode, recorded it, record a few more, publish it, and it was just those little baby steps. And now I can't believe that I'm like sitting there with a podcast that people can actually go and listen to on like Apple Podcasts. It is crazy. Like it's bonkers.
It's so exciting. I love that. Well, this has been so much fun, Keely. Thank you so much for joining me. I think we'll have to bring you back on just to talk about the podcast journey because that's a whole other conversation. And I'm super excited to see you at the retreat this year. What would you say is like the one thing you're looking forward to most?
No, don't make me pick one.
Okay, you can do two.
I'll do, yeah, okay. So, two. So, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone
Yeah.
because we see each other on the Zoom calls and it's really great, but you don't get a chance to natter. And as much as we like connect with each other, like on Instagram and stuff, and help each other out, and we've got our biz besties, it was so, so lovely meeting up with everyone last September. It was just the best. And I went a few days early. So we were like, there was like a couple of the other members, excuse me. And we were meeting up and doing things before. So it was like a proper holiday. So that's probably number one. Number two, definitely isn't Knox. I think it's probably going to be doing the workshops because the shifts and kind of the realizations and the clarity that you get at the in-person workshops, I can't even explain really what it is about being there in person, but it is just a completely different experience. Being in the room, feeling the energy, getting the feedback from people, and I don't mean like the words they're using, but just kind of like sitting in front of people and talking and interacting, like having that connection with people face to face is so valuable. And I think we miss it a lot now, especially post COVID because of Zoom calls and everything like that. So yeah, I think number one would be seeing everyone, and number two would be working through all the workshops and all of that.
I love that. Yeah, I'm the same. I can't wait to see everyone in person again. I mean, it felt like we were family by the end of the weekend. It was
Mm-hmm.
so special. And yeah, it's definitely different like doing the coaching and workshops in person. I found that as well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, whoa, like we go deep online, we go way
Mhm.
deeper in person. And there's just something different about it. And so, yeah, I'm glad you're excited. I'm so
Mhm.
excited too. Cannot wait to see you there. And do you have 1 minute?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know we're at time, but I'm
It's
like,
okay.
I remember you mentioned before that before you came to the retreat, I don't think you had flown out the country on your
No,
own or done anything like that.
no.
What's your advice to somebody who's like maybe how you were, who's like, oh my gosh, I
Mhm.
can't go to this retreat with people I don't know in a
Yeah,
country I've never been to all on my own. What's your advice for them?
yeah,
Because that was,
yeah. So again, to put in context, I am a highly, highly anxious person. I get stressed out for everything. I'm constantly working on a level of high anxiety. And the thought of, so when it comes to like flying with the family and the kids, I'm down. I'm so organized. I've got it all, but that I've got them to focus on. So the thought of traveling on my own, and if something happened, like I'm the adult in the room, like I've got it, there's no one to default to. And even though that's fine, like I'm perfectly capable, just it set my anxiety off. But it's just that whole thing of, if you, it's going to be fine, like you're traveling somewhere that everything's kind of, at the retreat everything was organized. So the thing that you did that I loved, and I don't know if I told you how much I loved it, we got like lists of things, that like things to pack, so I didn't even have to panic. And I think I remember messaging you, I was like, what's the weather going to be like, because like in Scotland it's freezing, like, well, I need a coat, like, and you're like, it's fine, it will be warm, like pack this, pack that. So like every little kind of like niggly fear I had, there was kind of like an answer to that as well. So the way that the retreat was set up was really supportive to anyone that kind of had any worries or fears. Um, there's so much help around like places to stay. And it's so easy as well. Like the city, Kelowna, it is so easy to get around. I literally just downloaded Uber, and I think I just got an Uber from the airport to our Airbnb. Me and one of the other girls that were at the retreat, we ended up getting like the bus and stuff in the end, because, and that's quite an intimidating thing to be in a different country and get the bus and not really know if you're going the right direction, but it's so easy to get around. The city is really friendly and accessible. And yeah, so advice to people who were worried about kind of going if they haven't traveled before, it's a really supportive kind of environment. There's answers to all those questions. And yeah, you just need to work through that fear. If I can do it, pretty much anyone can. And
oh
it's worth
yeah.
it as well. Like, just think to yourself, however nervous you are or however fearful you are of doing it, you are going to be 10 times more like glad that you did it than you were scared to have done it, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes so much sense. And I totally get it because I used to be a very anxious traveler and like a very anxious person. And so I like that. That's kind of why the way we set it up, I'm like, oh, I would need to know my day by day packing list for each activity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't just need a
Mm-hmm.
packing list, I need to know day by day,
Yeah.
hour by hour, what outfits I should be wearing and like what shoes and like what the sitch is. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of why we're like, okay, you have this list. This is the packing list. This is what's happening. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also why this year we've changed the location of like the coaching and workshops. So it's at the most gorgeous location right downtown, right on the lake. But now
Mm-hmm.
everything is walkable. In
Mm-hmm.
like, and I did a test the other day. It's like from the hotels we recommend to there, it's like a 8 to 10 minute walk. And
Mm-hmm.
then if you want to walk to Knox, it's like another 10-20 minute walk, but everything's walkable. Everything's easy to get to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad you're coming back, Keeley. I cannot wait to see you
Yay.
again, for me to give you a big hug.
Yeah.
And thank you again so much for coming and joining me and sharing. This has been so, so much fun.
Thanks for having me, Robyn.